Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the channel where today it's book haul time. So let me take you through the books I've added to my collection over the last couple of months. So I've been really lucky to add a nice batch of books to my shelves or to my desk. I've got a big stack or 3 stacks on my desk of books that I need to somehow try to fit into my shelves. So, you know, this is the book buying problem that we all, I guess, like to have. Over the last couple of months, I've got 14 new books to go through. I only do a haul for my physical books. I should maybe do one for my digital books as well. Let me know in the comments down below if you're missing out and you want me to share those as well. But I'm going to go through these books just basically in the order I received them, except I'm going to bookend them with really beautiful special editions. So diving straight in, first of all, I've got this broken binding edition of The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae. This has been one of my favourite books for, well, since I read it, but this series is definitely turning into one of my favourites. I absolutely love it. This does give me a bit of a conundrum because I don't do double editions. If I receive an arc of a book, for instance, and I then receive or buy or add to my collection a finished copy, I donate the arc because I don't have the space basically, and I'm not a collector in that sense, so I don't want multiple editions of a book. However, I don't have a second book of this in this edition, so I do have book 1 and 2 of The Dragon Spirits for Shadowgate, as well as The Iron Crown in paperback. But I've now got this beautiful, beautiful edition. So it's got really nice gilded edges. Of course, it's got very lovely Katrina paints, end papers, forgot what they were called for a moment, and then where it's cloth bound we do have the lovely foiling on the boards as well, and then inside, as well as those end papers, we've got some lovely artwork as well. So let's find some of that. Really nice chapter headers as well. I do like those, but this is a beautiful, beautiful book, and they're in colour as well. So really happy to add this to my collection. It's not one, partly because of my kind of not having duplicates of books. It's not one that I was going to purchase myself, but I was lucky enough through the author's Patreon to actually win this copy. So thank you very much, Lauren, for facilitating me adding this one to my collection. It is absolutely beautiful. Next book I've got to show you is, this was a gift. I can't remember if it was for a particular reason, but this was a gift from my book bestie, Nina. This is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I love this cover. I think it looks really, really cool. I'm interested in the story. I've heard some really good things about it. I haven't read any of his work before. I know some of his books aren't going to be for me based on my typical sense, too much use of guns, for instance. This one, I have no idea, except I've heard really good things and I really want to read it. I am going to be reading the first chapter of this and a couple of the other titles in this stack next to me, because I am going to run through the first chapter of all of my unread first books in series. So that's coming up in, I think I'm going to do a series of videos that seem to be winning the Twitter poll. I'm going to do probably about 5 videos where I go through, because I've got nearly 30 books that I'm going to sample the first chapter of. This is one of them. I'm really excited for it. I hope that this is going to be a winner because, as I say, they look really great. I love these UK editions and I've heard good things from sources I really trust the taste of and the opinion of as well. So this one's going to be coming up as a sample on the channel soon, Ashes of the Sun. Next up, I've got a book I received from a publisher. This is Cify by Aman J. Bedi. It's a recent release. I think it came out last month, so you can get your hands on a copy of this one. It's another one that looks really cool. I like that cover. Sadly for me, this one didn't work for me. It was always kind of going to be a bit of a long shot. I was a bit dubious about some of the elements that we had in here, but this is an Indian-inspired fantasy setting, and you've got steam-powered rickshaws, and you've also got giant mecha in here as well, which is those two aspects, but especially the giant mech, were really the ones that I was a bit nervous about. But yeah, as I say, it didn't really work for me. I got to, I think, 30 or 40% before I decided to DNF this one because it just wasn't going. But I really did enjoy the magic system in it, so that's definitely a plus point in here. It was really interesting, had some good elements to it, but sadly overall this turned out to be not a book for me. Next up, I got a second book in a series. I haven't read the first one yet, but I have already sampled the first chapter and it was quite intriguing, so I'm just waiting for that right moment. But the author Jay Torsquall sent me book 2 of the series. The series is A Time of Falcons and Roses, and this is Promise of the Betrayer's Dagger. Again, it's one that looks really cool. It's very shiny, obviously, in this this solid hardcover with no dust jacket edition, but you can see the colours on that, I think, work really, really well. It looks very cool. And the same can be said for the first book in the series as well, Legacy of the Vermilion Blade. They're very striking, they're very distinctive. And I'm looking forward to getting into this one because, as I say, I did enjoy the first chapter of book 1. I was very intrigued by it. So it is one that I'll be getting to at some point. I just don't know yet when that's going to be. I've got a 2-for-1 here, so an author has sent me books 1 and 2 in a series. Again, this one I have actually read the first chapter of, and again, it's one that really intrigued me. So I've been kind of putting it off for a little while. Partly, initially I put it off because I wanted to receive the physical copies that were on their way to me before I read the book, so I could showcase them a little bit better. But then other plans got in the way, so I might be reading these in August, we will see. But I've got book 1 first of all of Will of a Wayfinder. Yes, Will of a Wayfinder by Lily and Crow. So this is Dreams of Dust, and it's got a really cool cover. It looks like one that's not really my normal style. I will say from that first chapter, which I said really intrigued me, I was definitely very into it. It doesn't kind of speak to what I'll find in the book, but obviously I only sampled it. I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of it, all the other characters I'll get introduced to and so forth, but it does look an intriguing cover. It's a really cool cover. I've then got book 2, River of Stars, which really complements it. I like how you've got the red and then the blue, so they don't necessarily follow a theme, but they still definitely complement each other, and I really do like this cover as well. We've got the good variety on there with this big beastly dragon, and you've got the little kind of wolf or whatever it is down in the at the side of the character as well. I love these covers. They look very good. I'm very interested in the series. Again, it's one I've heard some really good things about, especially from my friend Leslie over at the Nerdy Narrative, so very much looking forward to hopefully getting to those in August. Next up, I've got a book from a publisher. This is one I received a very early review copy, digital copy of, because I was asked to provide a blurb for the finished copy. So hopefully my words were chosen to go inside the book. That'll be pretty cool. But this one is The Last Shield by Cameron Johnston. So I really enjoyed this one. It's been labelled as a gender-bent Die Hard in a fantasy setting, and that's pretty much what you get. You've got one essentially lone main character who is fighting off people who are trying to get into or to take control of the castle that she lives in, and there's a big vault in the bowels of this castle basically, and they're trying to get into it and unlock a series of magical locks, and she's trying to get through them and get there to stop them before they get through that last lock. It's a really good read. I've very much enjoyed it. It took a while to get going, but when it did so with a bang. And you definitely have some of those elements from the first Die Hard movie, where you've got that lone wolf going through, picking off people, getting them on their own, taking them down so that she can win the day. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend it. I had a great time with this one. Next up, I've got another series of books that I was sent by an author. This is one that I've not sampled yet, so I will be reading the first chapter of one of these books for that sampler video that I'm going to do soon. But these are from author R.E. Sanders. First of all, I've got Tan's Last Stand. We've then got A Path of Blades. and the recent release, which is in shiny version, is Demon's Tear. So these ones I've not heard too much about. I've had a couple of friends who've read Path of Blades and really enjoyed it. I think this is one that I'm going to be reading the first chapter of for my sample video, but I'm not entirely sure. The author has given me a reading guide saying which order I should read them in, but if I remember rightly, it wasn't a strict reading guide. You can read them in any order, but yeah, definitely intrigued by this one. It sounds like a good fantasy setting, the sort of fantasy setting that I tend to enjoy, so hopefully this will be a winner for me. A book that I proofread next, the author sent me a really nice kind of care package with a nice bespoke box, some goodies inside it as well, with a bookmark, some stickers and so forth. But this one is Bloodwoven by G.J. Terrell. I had a good time reading this one. It's always a different experience when I proofread a book, but I can still enjoy the story as I'm reading it. I'm just looking at different things rather than just reading for pleasure. This one I'm pretty sure is an entrant in SPFBO X or 10, however you want to kind of title that one. So good luck to the author in that competition. Again, this is one that's got some really intriguing magic. It's one of the things obviously that can really set aside or set apart a fantasy book or series, and I think it's done really well in here. I'm very excited to continue the journey supporting the author as he writes his way through this series, The Binding Tenets. I don't know any details of the second book, but I'll be there for it when it's available. Another book that I worked on actually is next. This one is Darktown by Palmer Pickering. This one is maybe a little bit odd for me because it's not the sort of book that I generally would tend to go for, because I always forget where it's been or how it's been classed. Lit RPG or game lit, I can't remember. There it is on the front cover. It's the series is Tales of Temerity, and it's a fantasy lit RPG adventure. But you got your two main characters on the cover there. Temerity, a young bar girl, and she goes into a game, this big expansive game, with Halfpint, the kind of goblin who helps out her family in the bar, and she goes in there for a variety of reasons that I won't spoil. She has Halfpint there to help her along the way because he has the experience. And it's really good going through and experiencing it for the first time with Temerity. It's a very interesting setting, some intriguing concepts in there. I really had a good time with it, despite not being the normal kind of target audience for this book. This particular paperback is outstanding. I don't know if it shows up on there, but there are various page bleeds here throughout the book, because there are something like 20-25 pieces of artwork throughout the paperback. So there is so much care and attention that has been put into the production of the actual book itself there, outside of even just the writing of it. So if this is the sort of book that appeals to you, it's definitely one that's a really nice addition to any collection, but it's a really good read as well. The most recent book I received was a birthday present from my friend Andre, so thank you very much. This one is We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. I've already read this one. It's been on my wish list because I wanted a copy of it to add to my collection because I enjoyed it so much. It was one of my favourite books when I read it a year or two ago. It made my top 10 of the year, very high on that list actually. I can't remember how high exactly, but I think it was around the third or fourth best book or favourite book that I read in the year. I just had a really good time with it, and book 2 and 3 in the series as well continued that for me. So a very good series. I very much enjoyed it. Really happy to add this one to my collection. And then the last one, I said I'd bookend it with a couple of special editions, so this wasn't the last one I received, but it's one that means most to me with respect to all of the others, because I produced this one myself and I put so much work into it over basically 18 months. This is my copy of The Advent of Winter, which again is very shiny because of that lovely foiling that you've got on there. I've got 24 authors, including myself, named on the spine, who've contributed a short story to this anthology, and Katrina Paints, who I've mentioned earlier on as doing the end papers for the Iron Crown. She did the artwork for the cover here as well. I do have some additional artwork within this book as well. So first of all, the boards, again with some of the artwork from Katrina, and then just a little motif that I designed and the names of the authors on the spines. We then also have some artwork from Christiana Leone for the boards, for the end papers rather, and a couple of pieces inside from her as well. And then there's a bit of artwork from one of the authors as well, Kirsten Espinosa Rosero, if I can just find that one in here, supplied some artwork for her short story as well. So it's a really beautiful book. I'm very, very pleased with both how it turned out and how it's been received by people who've received copies of this through Kickstarter. Now this isn't going to be available in this edition elsewhere because it's a limited print run, so I wouldn't be able to get additional copies later. However, I do have some copies left over. Once the Kickstarter backers and the authors received their copies of them, I am still waiting for some leftover copies to come to me from the Broken Binding, who helped with the distribution, and I do have a couple of copies left from my own edition, my own collection as well. So I'm going to do a giveaway or two soon for a copy of this hardcover edition of The Advent of Winter. Keep your eyes peeled for that. So as usual, thank you so much to all of the authors and to my very good friends Lauren, Nina and Andre for sending these books to me over the last couple of months. I'm going to leave you there for today. I hope you enjoyed this quick look through some of the recent additions to my collection. I'll see you in the next video coming up on the channel at some point soon. Until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.